Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. I will not introduce anything. You guys watch the video and feel it, then let's evaluate together. The air in Birmingham's 5 Points South was thick with the scent of roasted coffee and the faint hum of gospel music spilling from a nearby bar. Neon signs flickered above the street, casting a golden glow over the cracked sidewalks and the crowd weaving through them. I was behind the counter at Soul Brew, a hole-in-the-wall coffee shop, juggling espresso shots and trying not to burn myself on the steamer, my life back then. A grind, 3 jobs, a half-baked tech startup idea, and a bank account that laughed at me every time I checked it. But that night, everything changed. That's when I met her. Nicole. She walked in like she owned the place, her curly hair bouncing with every step, catching the light, like a halo. Her skin, a warm shade of brown, glowed under the neon, and her eyes, man. Those eyes sparkled with something that hit me square in the chest. She wore a paint-splattered denim jacket, a nod to her job teaching art at a community center, and a smile that could make you forget your troubles. I fumbled her latte order, splashing foam everywhere, and muttered an apology. She just laughed low and easy and said, "Yo, it's all good. I like a little chaos in my coffee." That laugh. It was the first spark in a fire I didn't know was coming. I'm Marcus, by the way. Back then I was nobody, just a 24-year-old drowning in student debt, living in a studio apartment with a mattress on the floor and a dream nobody believed in. My startup idea. An app to connect small businesses with local suppliers. Sounded cool. But every investor I pitched laughed me out the room. Stick to pouring coffee. Kid, they'd say. My mom told me to get a real job. My boys told me to quit chasing pipe dreams. Everyone told me to give up. Everyone except Nicole. She started coming by Soul Brew every afternoon, always ordering the same thing. A latte with an extra shot. No sugar. We'd chat during my breaks, leaning against the counter while the jukebox played. Aretha Franklin or Mahalia Jackson. Nicole had this way of talking, half poet, half preacher, that made you feel like you could do anything. She'd tell me about the kids she taught, how they'd paint their dreams on canvas, and I'd tell her about my app, stumbling over words like a nervous kid. She never laughed. She'd tilt her head, her earrings catching the light, and ask questions, real questions, like she saw something in me I couldn't see myself. One night after closing up, I caught her outside swaying to a street band playing gospel-infused blues. The air was warm, the kind of Alabama summer night that sticks to your skin. I don't know what possessed me, but I walked over, hands in my pockets, and said, "Yo, you always this chill, or is it just the music?" She grinned, her teeth flashing white against the neon. "You tell me, coffee boy, you the one staring like I'm the main act?" I laughed, caught off guard. "8, you got me. But for real, you got moves. Ever think about joining the band?" "Nah," she said, stepping closer, her sneakers scuffing the pavement. "I'm more about painting my soul than singing it." "But you, I bet you got a rhythm in there somewhere." Her voice was teasing, but her eyes were serious, like she was daring me to show her who I really was. We stood there, the music wrapping around us, the crowd fading into a blur. I could smell her perfume, jasmine with a hint of something sweet like vanilla, and it hit me like a shot of whiskey. My heart was pounding, and not just from the bass line. That was the night I knew I was in trouble, the good kind. A week later, I got the nerve to ask her out. My wallet was thinner than my patience, so I suggested a free gospel show in Railroad Park. I was nervous as hell, worried she'd think I was cheap, but Nicole showed up with a blanket and a Tupperware of homemade fried chicken sandwiches, like it was the most natural thing in the world. We spread the blanket under a tree, the park buzzing with families and street vendors. The choir's voices rose into the night, singing about hope and redemption, and Nicole leaned back on her elbows, her hair spilling over her shoulders. "This is perfect," she said, her voice soft. "You don't need money to make a moment." Marcus. I looked at her the way the moonlight danced on her cheekbones and felt something shift inside me. You make it sound so easy, I said, like life ain't trying to kick my ass every day. She laughed, nudging my shoulder. Oh, it's kicking mine too, but you gotta find the good stuff in the cracks like this. Right now, right now. Those words stuck with me. We talked for hours about her art. My app. The way Birmingham felt like a city holding its breath, waiting for something better. When the choir hit a high note, she grabbed my hand, her fingers warm and sure, and pulled me to my feet. Dance with me, she said, not asking. I protested. Yo, I don't dance. I'll look like a fool. Good, she said, her eyes sparkling. I like fools. We swayed to the music, her hands on my shoulders, mine on her waist, the world shrinking to just us. Her body was close, her breath brushing my ear, and I swear I could feel her heartbeat through her jacket. The air smelled of grass and her perfume, and the streetlights cast long shadows that tangled with ours. It was the richest I'd ever felt, and my bank account had exactly $12.47 in it, but life's got a way of throwing curveballs. A few weeks later, I pitched my app to another investor. Same old story. Great idea, kid, but no dice. I came back to my apartment, a shoebox with a leaky faucet, and slammed my laptop shut. I was done, ready to quit. Then Nicole showed up unannounced, holding a canvas wrapped in brown paper. Open it, she said, leaning against the doorframe, her paint-splattered sneakers tracking dirt on my floor. I tore the paper off. It was a painting of a flame, bright and fierce, burning against a dark sky. At the bottom, in her looping handwriting, she'd written, "For Marcus, the fire that won't go out." I stared at it, my throat tight. "Why you doing this?" I asked, my voice rough. "I'm nobody, Nicole, just a broke dude with a dumb dream." She stepped closer, her eyes locking on mine. "You're not nobody. You're Marcus, and I see you." Those words broke something in me. I don't know who moved first, but suddenly we were kissing right there in my dingy apartment. The painting propped against the wall. Her lips were soft, warm, tasting faintly of mint, and her hands cupped my face, her thumbs brushing my jaw. The room was dark, except for a single streetlight streaming through the window, painting her skin in gold. Her breath hitched a soft sound that sent a shiver down my spine, and I pulled her closer, feeling the curve of her waist under my hands. The world outside, the bills, the rejections, the grind disappeared. It was just us tangled in that moment, the air humming with possibility. We pulled back, breathless, her forehead resting against mine. "Your trouble, coffee boy," she whispered, her voice teasing but her eyes soft. "Only the good kind," I said, grinning like an idiot. That night we walked through 5 Points, her hand in mine, the neon signs buzzing above us. We stopped under a streetlight, the glow catching the silver bracelet on her wrist, a cheap thing I'd saved up to buy her with a tiny easel charm. She looked at it, then at me, and said, "You make me believe in something bigger. Marcus, I wanted to freeze that moment, bottle it up, keep it forever. But life doesn't work that way." A week later, I got a call that changed everything. A tech company in Las Vegas wanted to partner with my startup. It was the break I'd been praying for, the kind of opportunity that could turn my life around. But there was a catch. I had to move. "Tomorrow," I told Nicole at Soul Brew, my hands shaking as I wiped down the counter. She listened, her face calm but her eyes flickering with something I couldn't read. "This is your shot," she said finally, her voice steady. "You gotta take it." "What about us?" I asked, hating how small I sounded. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "We'll figure it out. We always do, Keisha." Her best friend was wiping tables nearby, her braids swinging as she shot me a look. You better not break her heart. Marcus, she said, her voice sharp. I know where you live. I laughed, but it felt hollow. That night, Nicole gave me a small notebook, its pages filled with her drawings and notes of encouragement. Read one when you miss me, she said, her voice catching. We stood in the alley behind Soul Brew, the neon signs casting a soft glow over her face. I pulled her close, her body fitting against mine like it was made to be there. Her perfume filled my lungs, and her hand slid up my back, warm through my thin shirt. We kissed again, slower this time, the kind of kiss that says everything you're too scared to say out loud. The air was heavy with the scent of rain, and the distant sound of gospel music drifted from the bar. Her heartbeat thumped against my chest, steady and sure, and I knew I'd carry that feeling with me no matter where I went. The next morning, I boarded a bus to Las Vegas, my duffel bag slung over my shoulder. Nicole stood on the sidewalk, her hair catching the sunrise, her bracelet glinting. As the bus pulled away, I pressed my hand to the window, watching her until she was just a speck in the distance. My heart was full and breaking at the same time, like I was leaving behind the only thing that ever made sense. Yo, if you've ever felt a spark that lit up your whole damn world, hit that like button and subscribe that moment under the streetlights with Nicole. That's the kind of magic I'm talking about. Drop a comment. What's the moment you knew someone was the one? Let's keep this love story poppin'. Las Vegas hit me like a punch to the face. The Strip was a circus of neon lights, blaring slot machines, and people chasing dreams they'd never catch. I'd traded Birmingham's warm, soulful nights for a city that never slept, where the air smelled of cigarette smoke and overpriced cologne. My new life. A tiny apartment off the Strip, a folding chair for furniture, and 18-hour workdays at a startup incubator that smelled like Red Bull and ambition. My app, the one Nicole believed in, was finally getting traction, but at a cost. Every night I'd collapse onto my mattress, clutching my phone, waiting for her call. Those calls were my lifeline, the only thing keeping me grounded. Nicole was still in Birmingham, teaching art, painting, hope into kids' lives while I was out here trying to build something from nothing. We'd talk until my voice gave out, her laughter crackling through the phone like gospel music on a summer night. Yo, Marcus, she'd say. You better not be out there gambling away my latte money. I'd laugh, picturing her curly hair spilling over her shoulders, her bracelet glinting under Soul Brew's lights. But as the weeks turned into months, the calls got shorter. The time difference didn't help. 3 hours felt like a damn ocean, and my new world was pulling me in directions I didn't expect. Enter Vincent. He was the kind of guy Vegas was made for. Slick suit slicker, smile, and a handshake that felt like a contract. He ran a venture capital firm and took a shine to my app, calling it disruptive in a way that made my broke ass feel like a genius. He invited me to a party at a rooftop club overlooking the Strip, the kind of place where champagne cost more than my rent. I showed up in my one decent blazer, feeling like a fish out of water. The air was thick with perfume and cigar smoke, and the neon skyline pulsed like a heartbeat. Vincent slapped my back, handing me a drink. Marcus, my man, this is where the big dogs play. You want to make it. You gotta run with us. I nodded, sipping something that burned my throat, my eyes scanning the crowd. Models in dresses that left nothing to the imagination. Tech bros throwing around words like blockchain and Series A, and a DJ spinning beats that rattled my chest. Then I saw her, a dancer, gliding through the crowd, her sequined dress catching the neon like a disco ball. She moved like she knew every eye was on her, and when she brushed past me, her hand grazed my arm, leaving a trail of heat. Her perfume was sharp like citrus and sin, and her smile was a challenge. Having fun, handsome. She purred, her voice low over the music. My mouth went dry. For a split second I felt the pull. Vegas with its promise of easy thrills, whispering in my ear. The lights flashed red and purple. The bass thumped in my bones, and the world felt like it was tilting. But then I saw Nicole's face in my mind. her eyes soft under Birmingham's streetlights, her lips tasting of mint. I stepped back, muttering, "Nah, I'm good." She shrugged and melted into the crowd, but the moment stuck with me. Vegas was a city of temptation, and I was starting to feel its claws. Back in Birmingham, Nicole was fighting battles I didn't fully understand. One night her voice came through the phone, quieter than usual. "My mom's gone, Marcus." She said the words heavy, like they'd been sitting in her chest for days. "Cancer took her last week." I froze my phone, pressed tight to my ear. The hum of the strip outside my window felt like an insult. "Nicole, I'm so sorry. Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Didn't want to burden you," she said, her voice cracking. "You're out there chasing your dream." "I'm proud of you, burden me," I said, my throat tight. "You're not a burden. You're everything." She didn't answer right away, and the silence stretched like a canyon between us. I wanted to hop on a plane, wrap her in my arms, feel her heartbeat against mine. But my bank account was still a joke, and Vincent had me on a tight leash. Meetings, pitches, networking events that dragged into the night. I told her I'd call tomorrow, but tomorrow turned into the day after, and then the calls started slipping through the cracks. Vincent kept me busy introducing me to people who could open doors. One of them was Lauren, a marketing director with a smile like a billboard and eyes that sized you up like a poker hand. She was sharp, confident, and knew how to work a room. At a bar high above the city with the strip glittering below, she leaned in close, her manicured nails brushing my sleeve. The lights cast a red glow over her skin and her perfume. Something floral and expensive filled the air. "You're going places, Marcus," she said, her voice smooth as velvet. "Stick with me, and I'll make sure you get there faster." Her hand lingered on my arm, her fingers warm through my shirt. The city sparkled like a promise, and for a moment I felt the pull again. Vegas whispering that I could have it all. The music pulsed a slow, seductive beat, and the air was heavy with possibility, but Nicole's face flashed in my mind. Her laugh, her paint-splattered jacket, the way she'd said, "I see you." I pulled back, forcing a smile. "Appreciate it, Lauren, but I'm good." She raised an eyebrow, unfazed. "Your loss, handsome." That night I called Nicole, my heart pounding. I needed to hear her voice to anchor myself, but when she picked up, something was off. "You sound different," she said, her tone guarded, like you're becoming someone else. "Nah, it's still me," I said, pacing my apartment, the neon from the strip bleeding through my window. "Just trying to make this work for us." "Us," she repeated like she was testing the word Marcus. "You're out there in that big world, and I'm still here burying my mom, teaching kids, trying to keep it together. I'm coming back for you," I said, my voice desperate. "Soon as I can." She didn't answer right away, and when she did, her words cut deep. "You're not the same Marcus I kissed under the streetlights, and maybe I'm not the same Nicole." The call ended with a click, and I stood there staring at my phone, the city's glow mocking me. I pulled out the notebook she'd given me, flipping to a page where she'd written, "You're stronger than you know." But I didn't feel strong. I felt like I was losing the only thing that mattered. Weeks later, the startup got a big break. A major tech firm wanted to partner with us, but it meant 6 months in Asia setting up an international hub. It wasn't optional if I wanted to keep climbing. I called Nicole, my hands shaking. The Vegas skyline a blur outside my window. "This could change everything," I said, trying to sound excited. "We could have a real future." She was quiet for so long I thought the call dropped. Then she said, "Maybe this is a sign, Marcus. You're soaring now, and I don't want to be the weight holding you back." "Wait," I said, my voice breaking. "Nicole, you're my reason for all this. Don't do this." But something had shifted. Her voice was steady, final. "You need to fly, and I need to find my own path," I argued, pleaded. promised I'd come back. But the call ended with neither of us saying goodbye, just a silence that felt like a door slamming shut. I tried calling again the next day, but her number was disconnected, her social media accounts gone. I emailed, texted, even sent a letter to her old address in Birmingham. Nothing Keisha. When I finally tracked her down was cold. She's moving on, Marcus. Let her. I threw myself into work, telling myself every deal, every handshake was proof I was worth her faith. But the truth? I was running from the hole in my chest. Vegas with its lights and lies became my escape. I'd walk the strip at night, the neon burning my eyes, the slot machines jingle drowning out my thoughts. I'd open Nicole's notebook, tracing her handwriting, her words like a lifeline. Never forget who you are beneath it all. But who was I? A kid from Birmingham who'd traded love for a shot at the top, or a man who could still find his way back to the woman who saw him when he was nothing. I left for Asia a month later, my duffel bag heavier with her notebook than with clothes. The plane's engines roared and the strip's lights faded below me. I pressed my forehead to the window, the glass cold against my skin, and whispered her name like a prayer. Nicole. Wherever she was, I'd find her again. I had to. Because without her, all the money, all the deals, all the neon in the world meant nothing. Savannah felt like stepping into a painting, moss-draped oak trees, cobblestone streets, and the kind of humid air that clung to your skin like a lover's touch. I'd been chasing deals across the country, my startup now a name people whispered in tech circles. But success was a cold bedfellow, and every night I'd pull out Nicole's notebook, her words a ghost I couldn't shake. I was in Savannah for a tech conference, a whirlwind of panels and handshakes, but all I could think about was her. 5 years had passed since that gut punch of a phone call in Vegas when she'd slipped through my fingers like sand. I'd searched for her emails, calls, even a half-assed private investigator who turned up nothing. She was a phantom and I was a fool still in love with one. Then I saw her. It was at a pop-up art exhibit in a warehouse near the Savannah River, part of some Gullah Geechee cultural festival. The place was alive with color, vibrant paintings, woven baskets, the rhythm of drums pulsing through the air. I was there on a whim, killing time before a dinner meeting, when I caught a glimpse of her through the crowd. Nicole. Her hair was shorter now, curls framing her face, and she wore a flowy dress that caught the light like water. Her skin glowed under the string lights, and that silver bracelet, the one I'd given her in Birmingham, still circled her wrist. My heart stopped, then started again, pounding like a bass drum. She was talking to a group of artists, her hands moving like she was painting the air, her laugh cutting through the noise. I stood, frozen, my tie suddenly too tight, my palms sweaty. 5 years, and she was still the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. But what if she didn't want me here? What if she'd moved on, built a life I had no place in? I almost turned away. But then her eyes met mine. Time folded in on itself. Her smile faltered, then softened, and she excused herself, walking toward me with a grace that made my knees weak. "Marcus," she said, her voice the same warm honey I'd dreamed about. "You made it." I swallowed, my throat dry. "Yeah, guess I did." She tilted her head, her earrings catching the light. "You look different. Fancy suit, big city vibe, still my coffee boy under all that." I laughed, rubbing the back of my neck, trying to be, "You look..." I trailed off, words failing me. "Like you." Her eyes crinkled, but there was a shadow in them, something heavy. "Come on," she said, nodding toward the door. "Let's get some air." We stepped outside the river, a dark ribbon under the moonlight, the air thick with the scent of magnolias and salt. The festival's music drifted behind us, a mix of gullah drums and soulful guitar. We walked along the riverfront, the cobblestones uneven under my polished shoes. I wanted to ask a million questions: where she'd been, why she'd disappeared, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I said, "You still wearing that bracelet?" She glanced at her wrist, her fingers brushing the tiny easel charm. "Never took it off," she said softly. "Reminds me of who I was, who we were, that we hit me like a freight train." I stopped walking, turning to face her. "Nicole, I never stopped looking for you. I messed up, letting you go like that. I'm sorry." Her eyes searched mine, and for a moment I thought she'd walk away. But then she stepped closer, her perfume jasmine and vanilla wrapping around me like a memory. "You did what you had to," she said. "So did I." We ended up at a riverside bar, a low-lit joint with live music and tables spilling onto the street. The band was playing a slow, sultry cover of Georgia on My Mind, and Nicole's foot tapped to the rhythm, her dress swaying. I ordered us drinks. Whiskey for me, wine for her, and we talked the years melting away. She told me she'd moved to Savannah after Birmingham, chasing a job at a community arts center. She was teaching again, pouring her soul into kids who needed it most. I told her about the startup, the deals, the penthouse that felt more like a cage. "You happy, Marcus?" she asked, her voice cutting through the music. I looked at her, the way the candlelight danced on her cheekbones and the truth spilled out. "Not without you." Her breath caught, and something shifted in the air like the world was holding its breath. The band switched to a slower song, and she stood holding out her hand. "Dance with me." I hesitated, my old Birmingham nerves creeping in. "Yo, you know I'm trash at this." She grinned, her teeth flashing. "Good, I like your kind of trash." We moved to the small dance floor. Her hand warm in mine, her body close enough to feel the heat through her dress. The music wrapped around us, a lazy saxophone weaving through the air. Her hips swayed, guiding mine, and I slid my hands to her waist, feeling the soft curve under my fingers. Her breath brushed my ear, a soft, uneven rhythm that sent a shiver down my spine. The string lights overhead cast a golden glow, catching the silver in her bracelet, and her perfume filled my lungs, intoxicating. We weren't just dancing. We were rewriting the years we'd lost. She tilted her head back, her eyes locking on mine, and I couldn't stop myself. I leaned in and she met me halfway, our lips crashing together like a storm breaking. Her mouth was warm, tasting of wine and something sweeter, and her hands slid up my chest, fingers curling into my jacket. The world shrank to the heat of her body, the soft moan in her throat, the way her curls brushed my cheek. We stumbled into a nearby alley, the music fading to a distant hum, the moonlight painting her skin in silver. I pressed her against the brick wall, gentle but urgent, and she pulled me closer, her nails grazing my neck. The air was heavy with river salt and her scent, and every kiss felt like a promise we'd broken and were making again. But then she pulled back her chest, heaving her eyes wide with something I couldn't read. "Marcus," she whispered, her voice raw, "we can't just go back." I froze, my hands still on her waist. "What you mean?" She stepped away, wrapping her arms around herself. "I was married," she said, the words hitting like a slap. "It didn't last. He didn't get me, didn't get my art, and then—" She swallowed, her voice breaking. "I lost a baby miscarriage. It broke me, Marcus. I'm not the same girl you kissed in Birmingham." I stood there, the alley spinning, the river's murmur mocking me. "Nicole, I don't care what's changed. I love you. I always have." Her eyes glistened, but she shook her head. "You love who we were, but you're a big shot now, living in a world I don't fit in. I can't do this again. I can't lose myself. Nicole, wait." I reached for her, but she stepped back, her bracelet catching the moonlight. "I need time," she said, her voice firm but trembling. And you need to figure out who you are without all this. She gestured vaguely at my suit. My life. Before I could argue, Keisha appeared at the alley's mouth, her braids swinging, her eyes narrowing at me. Nicole, you good? She called, her tone sharp. Yeah, Nicole said, not looking at me. I'm good. She walked away, Keisha's arm around her shoulders, leaving me in the alley with the taste of her kiss still on my lips. I sank against the wall, my heart pounding, the river's scent mixing with the ache in my chest. I'd found her, but I'd lost her again, and this time it hurt worse, because now I knew what she'd been through, what she'd carried alone while I was out chasing neon dreams. The next morning I went back to the art exhibit hoping to see her. Instead, I found a painting on display, one she'd left behind. It was a woman standing by a river, her back to the viewer, her hair a cascade of curls. At the bottom, in Nicole's handwriting, was a note. Find your heart first. I bought the painting, my hands shaking, and carried it back to my hotel. It was a piece of her, a piece of us, and I wasn't letting it go. I left Savannah the next day, the conference forgotten, my suitcase heavier with her painting than with clothes. The river glinted under the sun, and I could still feel her lips, her breath, her body against mine. I'd made a mistake letting her go once. I wouldn't do it again. But first I had to figure out who I was beneath the suits. The deals, the neon glow of a life I'd built without her. Austin was a city that hummed with promise. Food trucks slinging BBQ live music spilling from every corner, and tech startups popping up like wildflowers. I'd landed here 3 years after Savannah. My startup now a full-blown empire with my name on magazine covers and TED Talk invites clogging my inbox. My penthouse overlooked Lady Bird Lake, all glass and steel with a view that screamed you made it. But at night, when the city's lights glittered like a cheap imitation of the stars, I'd sit on my overpriced couch. Nicole's notebook in my hands, her words mocking me. Never forget who you are beneath it all. Beneath it all. I was a man who'd traded love for a corner office, and the weight of that choice was crushing me. I'd searched for her after Savannah, chasing every lead I could afford. Private investigators, social media deep dives. Even a trip back to Birmingham that turned up nothing but Keisha's cold shoulder. Nicole had vanished, leaving only her painting. The woman by the river hanging in my penthouse like a wound I couldn't close. I dated here and there. Women who fit my new world like tailored suits. But none of them had her laugh, her fire, her ability to see me when I was just a broke kid, pouring coffee. I was rich, successful, and emptier than I'd ever been. Work kept me sane, or at least distracted. My app had revolutionized how small businesses connected, and now we were expanding globally. But the higher I climbed, the more I felt Vincent's shadow. He was still in the game, a venture capitalist with a knack for stirring trouble. He'd invested early in my company, and though I'd bought him out, he had a way of lingering like a bad cologne. Lately, he'd been sniffing around, hinting at a hostile takeover if I didn't play ball with his new project. I brushed him off, but the stress was a constant hum, like the neon buzz of Vegas. Then there was Lauren. She was the head of marketing for a rival tech firm, all sharp wit and sharper heels, with a smile that could sell ice to a snowstorm. We'd crossed paths at conferences, her confidence drawing me in despite myself. She was in Austin for a joint project, and one night she invited me to a rooftop party at South Congress, where the city's elite mingled over craft cocktails and live country music. The air smelled of smoked brisket and bourbon, and the skyline twinkled below a sea of lights stretching to the horizon. Lauren found me by the bar, her red dress hugging her curves, her perfume, something floral and heavy, cutting through the BBQ smoke. The string lights overhead cast a warm glow on her skin, and her nails painted gold grazed my arm as she leaned in. Marcus, she purred, her voice low over the twang of a guitar. You're the talk of the town, but you look like you could use some fun. I forced a smile, sipping my whiskey. Fun's overrated. I'm just trying to keep the lights on. She laughed, her head tilting back, her earrings catching the light. Oh, come on. You're a rock star now. Live a little. Her hand lingered on my sleeve. Her fingers warmed through the fabric, and the music slowed, a lazy ballad that made the air feel thick. The lights dimmed, casting shadows across her face, and for a moment I felt the pull, Austin's promise of distraction, of a life where I didn't wake up missing Nicole. We danced, her body close, her breath brushing my ear. Her perfume was dizzying, and the guitar's low hum vibrated in my chest. Her hand slid to my shoulder, her nails grazing my neck, and I could feel the city whispering, "Take it, forget her." But then I saw Nicole's face, her curls under Birmingham's streetlights, her lips soft against mine in Savannah's alley. I stepped back, my heart pounding. "Lauren," I said, my voice rough, "you're great, but I'm not that guy." Her smile didn't waver, but her eyes narrowed. "Your loss, Marcus, but don't cry to me when you're lonely." I left the party, the city's lights blurring as I walked back to my penthouse. I pulled out Nicole's notebook, flipping to a page where she'd drawn a tiny coffee cup with the words, "You're enough." I traced the lines, my chest tight. I wasn't enough, not yet, but I was damn sure going to try. The next day, Lauren dropped a bomb at a board meeting. She casually mentioned a rumor that I'd fudged numbers in my early pitches to investors, painting me as a fraud who'd clawed his way up on lies. It wasn't true. But in the tech world, perception is everything. My team scrambled to control the damage, and Vincent called, his voice dripping with fake concern. "Rough day, Marcus. I can make this go away. Just say the word." I hung up, my blood boiling, but the rumor spread and I knew it would reach Nicole wherever she was. The thought of her believing I was a liar gutted me. I couldn't let her think I'd betrayed the man she'd believed in. I called my private investigator, a grizzled guy named Ray who'd been chasing dead ends for years. "Double your fee," I said. "Find her now." Weeks passed, each day a blur of meetings and damage control. Vincent's takeover threat loomed and my board was breathing down my neck. I was losing sleep, my penthouse feeling more like a prison. Then Ray called. "Got her," he said, his voice gruff. "Nicole's in Charlottesville, Virginia, works at a children's hospital doing art therapy. Got a photo from a fundraiser. Sending it now." The photo hit my inbox and my heart stopped. Nicole surrounded by kids' paintings. Her smile as bright as I remembered, her bracelet glinting under fluorescent lights. She was older, her face carrying new lines, but she was still her fierce, radiant mine. I stared at the photo for hours, the city's hum fading outside my window. I had to see her, had to tell her I was still the man she'd kissed under the streetlights, not the fraud Lauren painted me as. But Vincent wasn't done. He called a last-minute board meeting in San Francisco, demanding my presence to discuss the company's future. It was a power play, a chance to twist the knife while the rumor mill churned. My team begged me to go missing. It could mean losing control of the company I'd built from nothing. I stood in my penthouse, Nicole's painting on the wall, her notebook in my hands. The city lights flickered below the lake, a dark mirror reflecting my choices. I could fight for my empire, or I could fight for her. I chose her. I canceled the meeting, ignoring my team's protests, and booked a flight to Charlottesville. My assistant thought I'd lost my mind. "Marcus, you're throwing away everything," she said, but she didn't get it. Everything was Nicole. Her laugh, her touch, the way she'd seen me when I was nothing. I packed a bag, slipping her notebook and the painting's photo into it. The rumor. Vincent, the company, they could wait. She couldn't. The flight was a blur, my heart pounding with every mile. What if she'd moved on? What if she hated me for showing up unannounced? The plane's engines roared and I pressed my forehead to the window. The clouds below, a white sea of doubt. But then I remembered her in Savannah. her lips against mine, her body warm in that alley. She'd said she needed time, but I'd give her forever if that's what it took. I landed in Charlottesville at dusk. The Blue Ridge Mountains, a dark silhouette against the sky. The air was crisp, smelling of pine and possibility. I checked into a hotel, my hands shaking as I dialed Ray for the hospital's address. He gave me directions, then added, "Good luck, kid. Hope she's worth it." "She is," I said, my voice steady for the first time in years. I drove to the hospital, a modern building with murals splashed across its walls. My polished shoes squeaked on the polished floors and my suit felt out of place among the bright chaos of kids' artwork. I followed signs to the art therapy wing, my pulse racing. Through a glass panel in the door, I saw her. Nicole helping a little girl paint her hair, pulled back. Her smile, gentle, she wore jeans and a paint-splattered sweater, but she moved with the same grace that had stolen my breath in Birmingham. Her bracelet caught the light, a silver thread tying me to our past. I stood there frozen, the weight of 5 years pressing down. I'd found her, but what came next? Would she see the man I'd become, or the one I was still trying to be? The hospital's fluorescent lights buzzed, the kids' laughter echoing, and I took a deep breath, pushing the door open. This was it, the moment I'd been chasing since the neon nights of Vegas, since the river's edge in Savannah. I was here for her, and I wasn't leaving without a fight. Charlottesville smelled of pine and promise, the Blue Ridge Mountains cradling the city like a secret. I stood outside the children's hospital, my heart hammering against my ribs, the weight of 5 years pressing down. The building was a riot of color murals, of animals and rainbows splashed across its walls, but all I could see was Nicole through the glass door of the art therapy wing. She was there, real, not a ghost in my dreams or a face in a faded photo. Her curls were pulled back, her sweater dappled with paint, and that silver bracelet, the one I'd given her in Birmingham, glinted under the fluorescent lights. I'd crossed the country to find her, leaving my empire teetering in Austin, but now standing here I was terrified. What if she didn't want me? What if the man I'd become was too far from the one she'd loved? I pushed the door open, the squeak of my polished shoes echoing in the quiet hall. Nicole was helping a little girl, maybe 8, mix paint colors at an easel. The girl's head was wrapped in a bright scarf, her smile wide as she smeared blue across the canvas. Nicole's voice, warm and steady, floated over. "That's it, Maya. Make it bold like you." My chest tightened. She was still the same. Nicole pouring light into everyone around her. She looked up and our eyes locked. Time stopped. Her hand froze midair, paint dripping from her brush, and her lips parted like she wasn't sure I was real. The little girl, Maya, tugged at her sleeve. "Miss Nicole." "Who's that?" Nicole blinked, setting the brush down. "Just an old friend," she said, her voice soft but steady. She walked toward me, her sneakers silent on the linoleum, and stopped a few feet away. Up close I saw new lines around her eyes, a quiet strength in her posture. She was still beautiful but different, stronger, like a tree that had weathered storms. "Marcus," she said, her tone unreadable. "What you doing here?" I swallowed my throat dry. "I found you," I said, like that explained everything. "I had to see you." Her eyes flickered a mix of warmth and wariness. "You flew all the way from Austin just to say hi?" "Nah," I said, forcing a smile. "I flew to say, I'm sorry, for everything." She crossed her arms, her bracelet catching the light. "That's a lot of sorry to carry. You sure you mean it?" Before I could answer, Maya piped up from the easel. "Is he your boyfriend, Miss Nicole?" Her voice was teasing, her eyes sparkling. Nicole's cheeks flushed and she shot the girl a look. "Maya, hush. Go finish your painting." Maya giggled, and I couldn't help but grin. "She's got a point. I said I'd like to know the answer to that one too." Nicole rolled her eyes, but a smile tugged at her lips. "Come on," she said, nodding toward a side door. "Let's talk somewhere quieter." We stepped into a small courtyard behind the hospital, a patch of green framed by the mountains. The air was crisp, smelling of grass and distant wood smoke, and the afternoon sun painted everything in gold. A wooden bench sat under a dogwood tree, its petals scattered on the ground. We sat the space between us, heavy with unspoken words. I wanted to reach for her, to feel her warmth like I had in Savannah, but her guarded expression stopped me. "You look good," I said, my voice rough, "like you're where you're supposed to be." She glanced at me, her eyes softening. "This place, it's home now. These kids, they're my heart. But you're out there, running the world. Saw your face on a magazine cover." "Big shot, Marcus." I winced. "That's not me, not the real me. The real me's the guy who kissed you under the streetlights in Birmingham, the guy who messed up and lost you." Her fingers tightened around her bracelet, and she looked away toward the mountains. "You didn't lose me, Marcus. I left. After Savannah. I couldn't go back to us. Not after everything." "Tell me," I said, leaning closer, the bench creaking under me. "Please." She took a deep breath, her voice low. "After my marriage fell apart, after the miscarriage, I was broken. I moved here, started over. This job, these kids, they saved me. But you were out there building an empire, living a life I didn't fit into. I saw the rumors, Marcus, the ones saying you lied to get where you are. I didn't want to believe it, but it hurt." My stomach twisted. Lauren's poison had reached her just as I'd feared. "Those rumors ain't true," I said, my voice urgent. "I swear, Nicole, I've made mistakes, but lying ain't one of them. I built this for us, for the future we dreamed about. But it means nothing without you." Her eyes searched mine, and for a moment I thought she'd pull away. But then she reached out her fingers, brushing my hand, warm and tentative. The touch sent a jolt through me like a spark reigniting a fire. "You still carry that notebook?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Every damn day," I said, pulling it from my jacket pocket. The pages were worn, her handwriting faded, but still there. "It's all I had of you." Her breath hitched, and she stood walking to the edge of the courtyard, her back to me. "I never stopped thinking about you," she said, her voice trembling. "But I'm scared. Marcus, scared of losing myself again." I stood closing the distance between us, my heart pounding. "I'm scared too. Scared. I'm too late, but I'm here. Nicole, I'm not going anywhere." She turned her eyes glistening, and before I could say another word, she closed the gap, her hands cupping my face. Her lips found mine, soft and urgent, tasting of mint and salt from tears I hadn't seen. The kiss was slow, deliberate, like she was memorizing me. The sun warmed her skin, her curls brushing my cheek, and her perfume, jasmine and vanilla, filled my lungs. I slid my arms around her, feeling the curve of her waist, the steady thump of her heartbeat against my chest. The mountains stood silent, the only sound her soft sigh and the rustle of dogwood petals falling around us. We pulled back, breathless, her forehead resting against mine. "You're still trouble." "Coffee boy," she whispered, a smile in her voice. "Only for you," I said, my grin shaky. That night she invited me to her place, a small cottage on the edge of town, its walls covered in her paintings, its air thick with the scent of lavender and turpentine. We sat by a crackling fireplace, the flames casting shadows across her face. She told me about her life, the kids she taught, the greenhouse she'd built, the way she'd learned to love herself again. I told her about Austin, the rumors, the empire I'd built, and the emptiness it left. My voice broke as I admitted, "I hit a mistake once. A bad deal early on could have tanked the company. I fixed it, but I never told anyone. That's what Lauren twisted into those lies. Nicole listened, her eyes steady. You should have told me, she said. But I get it. We were both running from something. I took her hand, her fingers warm in mine. I'm done running. You were the only one who ever saw me. Nicole, not the money, not the suits. Just me. Her eyes filled and she leaned in, kissing me again. This time it was deeper, hungrier, the firelight painting her skin in gold. Her hand slid under my shirt, her nails grazing my back, sending shivers through me. I pulled her closer, her body soft against mine, the heat of the fire mixing with the warmth of her breath. The room was alive with the crackle of logs, the scent of lavender, and the soft sounds she made. Sighs, whispers, a laugh that broke the tension. We sank onto the rug, her curls spilling across my chest, our bodies tangled in a dance older than words. It wasn't just passion, it was healing, a stitching together of the years we'd lost. But the world wasn't done with us. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from my assistant, Vincent's, pushing the takeover boards, panicking. You need to get back to Austin now. I stared at the screen, my stomach sinking. Nicole was in the kitchen humming as she made coffee, her sweater slipping off one shoulder. I wanted to stay to build a life in this cottage, but Vincent's shadow loomed, threatening everything I'd worked for. Then came another blow. A news alert popped up. Tech mogul Marcus Reed faces fraud allegations. Lauren had doubled down, leaking more twisted stories to the press. I showed Nicole my hands, shaking. This is what I'm up against, I said. If I don't fight this, I lose everything. She set her coffee down, her eyes searching mine. Everything? She asked, her voice quiet. Or just the stuff that don't matter? I froze her words, cutting deep. She was right. The company, the penthouse, the headlines. They were nothing compared to her. But the rumors had hurt her too. And I saw the doubt in her eyes, the fear that I'd choose the fight over her. I dropped to my knees, taking her hands, my voice breaking. Nicole, you're my home. I built all this thinking it'd make me worthy of you. But I was wrong. I was worthy when you loved me with nothing in my pockets. I'm sorry I ever made you doubt that. Tears spilled down her cheeks and she knelt with me, her hands cupping my face. You were always enough, she said, her voice fierce, with or without the millions. We kissed, the morning light streaming through the window, the air thick with coffee and lavender. Her lips were soft, her breath warm, and her fingers tangled in my hair, pulling me closer. The world outside the rumors, Vincent, the takeover faded to nothing. It was just us two people who'd found their way back the mountains, standing guard around us. I decided to stay in Charlottesville, at least for now. My team could handle Austin for a bit, but then Nicole got a call. A community arts project in Boulder, Colorado, needed her expertise. She looked at me, her eyes bright with possibility. They want me to start next month, she said. What you think, coffee boy? I grinned, my heart full. I think I'm coming with you. Boulder was a breath of fresh air after the chaos of Austin and the weight of Charlottesville. The city buzzed with a laid-back vibe, coffee shops with mismatched chairs, street art blooming on every corner, and the Rocky Mountains standing tall like they were guarding something sacred. Nicole and I had landed here a month ago, chasing her new gig leading a community arts project. Her cottage in Charlottesville was packed up my penthouse in Austin, left to gather dust. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about the next deal or the next headline. I was thinking about her laugh, her paint-splattered hands, the way her eyes still saw the real me, even after everything. We rented a small house near Pearl Street Mall, its walls lined with her canvases, its backyard, a jungle of wildflowers she'd already started taming. I'd scaled back at the company, letting my team handle the day-to-day. while I worked remotely trying to prove to Nicole and myself that I could be more than a suit. But the past wasn't done with us. Vincent was still out there circling like a shark, and Lauren's rumors had left scars both on my reputation and on Nicole's trust. And then there was Terrell, Nicole's older brother, a boulder of a man with a beard like a forest and a glare that could stop traffic. He lived in Boulder, running an environmental nonprofit, and he wasn't exactly rolling out the welcome mat for me. Our first week in Boulder. I joined Nicole at her project, a community mural in the Alberta Arts District where kids and locals painted their dreams on a brick wall. The air smelled of spray paint and pine, and the sun beat down, warming the pavement. Beatsy, I was nervous, my hands sweaty as I watched her work. She was in her element, directing kids with a paint roller, her curls bouncing as she laughed. I grabbed a brush trying to keep up, but ended up with more paint on my jeans than the wall. Nicole caught me grinning. "Yo, coffee boy, you're making a mess. Gotta start somewhere." I shot back, flicking paint at her. It splattered her cheek and she gasped, then lunged at me, smearing blue across my shirt. The kids hooted, and for a moment we were back in Birmingham, young and carefree, our laughter echoing off the bricks. That night we worked side by side, our shoulders brushing the sun sinking behind the mountains. Her sweater slipped off one shoulder, revealing the smooth curve of her collarbone, and I couldn't look away. The light caught her skin, painting it gold, and her perfume, jasmine and vanilla, mixed with the earthy scent of paint. I leaned in, wiping a smudge of paint from her cheek, my fingers lingering on her soft skin. Her breath hitched, her eyes locking on mine, and the world shrank to just us. "You're still a mess," she whispered, her voice teasing but her gaze heavy. "Only for you," I said, my thumb brushing her jaw. The air crackled, the kids' chatter fading, and I wanted to kiss her right there to taste the paint and the promise of us. But Terrell's truck rumbled up, and the moment broke. He stepped out, his eyes narrowing at me like I was a bug he wanted to squash. "Marcus," he said, his voice low, "we need to talk." We sat at a picnic table, the mural half finished behind us. Nicole joined us, her expression wary. Terrell didn't waste time. "You hurt my sister." Once he said, his arms crossed. "You think you can just waltz back in all rich and fancy, and she's gonna forget. Prove you're worth her." "I'm trying," I said, my voice steady. "I left Austin, scaled back the company. I'm here for her." He leaned forward, his eyes hard. "Words are cheap. You want to be with her. Show me you're not just another suit chasing glory." Nicole's hand found mine under the table, her fingers warm and sure, but her silence spoke volumes. She was watching, waiting, and I knew Terrell wasn't the only one I had to convince. The next day, trouble followed us to Boulder. My phone buzzed with a text from my assistant. Lauren's at it again. "New article claims you bribed investors. Vincent's fanning the flames. Board's freaking out." I cursed under my breath, showing Nicole the message. Her face tightened, the old doubts creeping back. "Is it true?" she asked, her voice quiet. "No," I said. My jaw clenched. "Lauren's playing dirty, and Vincent's backing her. They want my company, and they'll burn it down to get it." She looked away, her fingers twisting her bracelet. "I want to believe you, Marcus, but this world of yours, it's poison. I don't know if I can live in it." Her words cut deeper than any rumor I'd fought to build something worthy of her. But what if it was the very thing pushing her away? I spent the day on calls trying to contain the damage, but the news spread like wildfire. By evening, Vincent sent an ultimatum sign, a lucrative partnership deal with his firm, or he'd tank my stock with more leaks. It was a deal that could save the company, secure my legacy, but it would tie me to him, to Austin, to the life I was trying to leave behind. I found Nicole in the backyard, tending her wildflowers, the sunset painting the sky in pinks and purples. She wore a loose tank top, her arms dusted with soil, and the sight of her strong, grounded alive made my chest ache. I told her about Vincent's offer, my voice heavy. If I sign, I save the company. If I don't, I could lose it all. She stood wiping her hands on her jeans, her eyes searching mine. What do you want? Marcus, not the company, not the money you. I looked at her, the mountains framing her like a halo, and the truth spilled out. You, I said, my voice raw. I want you. I want us. The rest, it's just noise. Her lips parted, but before she could speak, Terrell appeared, his expression unreadable. Heard about your company, he said. You gonna run back to Austin, save your empire? I met his gaze, then Nicole's, and something clicked. I'd spent years chasing a dream, thinking it would make me enough. But Nicole had seen me when I had nothing, and she was still here waiting for me to choose her. No, I said, my voice firm. I'm done with empires. I'm staying. Terrell's eyebrows shot up, but a slow smile spread across his face. Aight, man, that's a start. Nicole's eyes glistened, and she stepped closer, her hand finding mine. You sure? She whispered, her voice trembling. Surer than I've ever been, I said, pulling her into my arms. Her body fit against mine, warm and solid, and I kissed her slow and deep-tasting earth and jasmine. The sunset bathed us in light, the mountains whispering their approval, and her fingers tangled in my hair, her breath a soft moan against my lips. The world. Vincent Lauren. The rumors melted away, leaving only us, two souls, finding their way home. The next day, I called my team and turned down Vincent's deal. The stock would take a hit, maybe crash, but I didn't care. I'd rebuild, or I'd start over. With Nicole by my side, I could do anything. I joined her at the mural project, painting beside her and the kids, my hands steady for the first time in months. Maya, the girl from Charlottesville, had sent a drawing of us labeled Miss Nicole's Prince, and Nicole taped it to the wall, her laughter filling the air. That night we walked to a community garden near our house, a patch of earth where locals grew vegetables and flowers. Nicole wanted to plant something, a symbol of our new start. We chose a wildflower, a black-eyed Susan, tough and beautiful like her. We knelt in the dirt, our hands brushing as we dug the soil cool under our fingers. The stars came out a glittering canopy above, and the air smelled of grass and possibility. When we finished, I pulled her to her feet, her tank top streaked with dirt, her curls catching the starlight. You're my home, Nicole, I said, my voice low. Always have been. She smiled, her eyes bright. And you're mine, coffee boy. We kissed under the stars, her lips soft and urgent, tasting of earth and sweetness. Her hands slid up my back, her nails grazing my skin, and I held her close, feeling her heartbeat against mine. The night was alive with the chirp of crickets, the rustle of leaves, and the warmth of her body grounding me in a way no penthouse ever could. The kiss deepened our breaths mingling, and I knew this was it. The richest moment of my life, worth more than any deal, any dollar. The future wasn't certain. Nicole got a call the next morning. An art gallery in Florence, Italy wanted her for a solo exhibit. It was a dream she'd buried long ago, and her eyes sparkled as she told me her voice, a mix of excitement and nerves. What you think? She asked, her hand in mine. Should I go? I grinned, my heart full. We go together. We stood in the garden, the black-eyed Susan swaying in the breeze, and I knew we'd face whatever came next, Florence, Boulder, or beyond. Because true wealth wasn't in bank accounts or headlines. It was in moments like this, in being seen and being loved for who you really are. I'd learned that the hard way, from a broke kid in Birmingham to a man who'd found his way back to the woman who'd always believed in him. Yo, thanks for riding with Marcus and Nicole's epic love story. If this hit you in the feels, smash that subscribe button and share it with someone who needs it. Comment below What's the richest moment in your life? Let's keep the love alive.